Good morning. Welcome to Temple Tuesday. I'm Carrie Ann Hoops, and we are back after our social media fast. I feel like I haven't been around. There's been a lot going on. It just seems like with conference and all kinds of things are always happening, but we're glad that you're here. I am at the Gilbert, Arizona Temple today, and the sun just peeked out right when we started. I wanted to share a quick thought. A couple of weeks ago, I had stopped by the temple, and I was shocked to see what I saw. There were dumpsters everywhere. There was trash all kind of just in the driveway, the main driveway here at the Gilbert Temple. And I knew that the temple was closing, but I hadn't seen it where there was all kinds of construction happening on the outside. And it made me think about a time when we had the opportunity to come and clean the temple. And I'm trying to get out of the sun here. It is right in my eyes. There we go. And we walked in, and I was equally shocked because there were little blue pieces of tape all over the floor. This was, I want to say about 2 years ago. And my husband and I had come in late one night to help clean. And the temple had been closed for a couple of weeks, just for some cleanup. Well, at that point, the temple had not been open very long. And I was shocked at the construction and the things in progress that were happening from a newly constructed temple. You guys can see right there. You guys can see the scissor lift. A minute ago, they had that scissor lift up, so they might bring it back up. But they are working right now on the temple, and they're doing something pretty major because there is quite a few workers. Usually when we see the temple closed, it's just, minor stuff that's getting cleaned and fixed and things like that. Well, back to my story. We had walked in and there was blue tape everywhere, and I was actually a little frazzled by it because we had made our way up to the celestial room, and as you guys can see, I don't know if I can point, but right there, that window, that is where the celestial room is. And there's this huge chandelier. Well, in the chandelier was on the ground. And I was like, what is happening? Well, I knew that it had been put on hydraulics so they could pull it down and clean it. But I just felt like the more I walked in the temple, the more I got discouraged and thought, why is all of this a wreck? I don't like the temple a mess like this. The temple is a house of order, and it's always pristine and perfect. And there was tables stacked on top of each other and chairs stacked on top of each other. There was trash cans everywhere. It was just an unusual sight to see. And so fast forward to this a couple of weeks ago when I pulled up and I saw all of this construction. I was like, dang it. The temple needs repair again. And I was just actually yesterday talking to a friend who we were talking about the temple construction, landscaping, all the details that go into the temple. And it is perfection. They don't miss a detail. Everything is scoured over and looked over and prayed about, and every detail is to the highest standards for codes, but also the highest standards for the Lord. And so as I walked through the temple and saw all these little blue pieces of tape, I started to really get frustrated. And I thought, I don't understand. How is the flooring so messed up? Why is there so many problems with the temple floor that they have to redo this? And I don't remember the exact time, but I want to say it was less than a year. I think the temple had only been open about 6 months or so at that point. And I finally asked somebody, I said, can you explain to me all these blue, what is all this blue tape on the ground? And one of the workers went, you really want to know? Which made me more discouraged. And I said, I do. I really want to know what I don't understand. And they said, it's the high heels. I said, what do you mean it's the high heels? The high heel shoes that women wear. It's a natural stone that they have. I'm pretty sure it's travertine. It was chipping away at the tile. So of course, being who I am, I of course went and picked up the tape from a couple of the spots and looked at it and put the tape right back down. Didn't even pull it all the way up, but pulled it up enough that I could see the damage. And I did that about 20 places. And my husband, they give you white jumpsuits or white scrubs to clean. And we had vacuums on our backs. And he's like, come on, don't keep pulling these up. And I said, I just am amazed that there is this much damage from this short of time. And it was really, really discouraging to me. Well, we continued about the work and the service that we had been asked to render that night. And I couldn't get out of my mind the flooring being so messed up. And I asked the lady as we were leaving, I said, is there other things that they have to really redo? And she said, no, everything was done to the Lord's standards, to have just perfection in all of the craftsmanship and all of these things. But this flooring could not take this constant pounding from these women's shoes. Well, she shared a story with me, which I want to share today, which I've shared before with some brides, as I have photographed here at the temple, is the main doors, which are just right there. There's main doors, and then there's one on either side that exit from the temple. They had originally planned that the brides would exit from the front, but there's actually a side door. That's what it was. There's a side door over here where they were originally going to exit. Well, they did it, and it was too loud. The flooring echoed all the way up into the celestial room, into the some of the ordinance rooms, and up through the hallway. And you can hear it. You can hear, if you're up in the celestial room, when you come through those doors, you can hear people at the front doors if it's too noisy, because it just echoes all the way up. And so she was telling me this story about that, and I thought, it's super interesting how we see this building that has been perfectly crafted to please the Lord as a house of the Lord. And yet there's still things that weren't accounted for because there's just no way to know. One of those being this flooring that could not take or withstand the shoes of women just pounding on them. And I will tell you, I left with a different understanding of what kind of shoes to wear at the temple. I almost always wear flats, and I almost always wear something with plastic, like a rubber sole, because my mind is so full of those heels that were destroying this flooring. And it made me think of this scripture in D&C 12 verse 1. It says, a great and marvelous work is about to come forth among the children of men. And one time I read that scripture shortly after I had been in the temple and had that experience with the flooring, and I was shocked how it stood out. I've read that scripture many, many times, but as the entrance of the temple, as everybody's walking in, a great and marvelous work is about to happen. And yet at the same time, the flooring was being destroyed. And the Lord's okay with that, because this marvelous work is about to happen. All of this service was getting ready to be rendered, and no one was upset about it. One of the contractors that was there fixing the tile and doing some of those things, I said, does this just make you so mad? And he said, no, not at all. These are the things, these are learning times that we learn, okay, maybe we won't put this stone at the entrance, or we'll put this somewhere where it doesn't have a certain kind of traffic. And it truly made me so sad to think about all of the work that went into this, and yet here this perfectly crafted temple had this trial, and this flooring couldn't withstand it. And what could we do to protect that flooring? And so many times in my life over the last couple of years, I have attributed that to something else in my life, and I've thought about that flooring, of how we need to take care of things. And we recently moved into a new home, and we were cleaning, and one of my kids said, well, I don't understand why we have to do this. We just moved in here. And I said, because our house is a house of order, and we need to tend to things even when they're not broken. We need to maintain them so that they can continue in that great state that they are. And so I think it's so important as we look at our lives and realize that things happen. You know, there's things that are out of our control, but it is truly a work in progress, and that we need to be gentle with ourselves, but we need to be protective of ourselves as we think about how we carry on our life and what we do. And I am so grateful. It's amazing today. I'm actually very distracted by all of the workers. We've got a ton of service missionaries over here that are working, and we've got, the scissor lift is up now. They're working on something. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, if I can point right there. There's some kind of wiring that's happening. I'm not sure what they're doing. They were replacing the windows. And there's people all over by the fountain, and I don't even want to get close because they're all working in construction. It is amazing to me how in 3 weeks, the difference that I have seen. The temple will open next week. The difference that I have seen in just that 3-week period. All the flowers were pulled out, all the plants, everything was pulled out, and here we are. And the temple has flowers again. And there's no dirt to be seen. They've planted all of these little flowers. And they're down here working on more of the planting. If you have never been to the Gilbert Temple, the flowers are like nothing you've ever seen. And it is amazing to me to see how perfectly groomed every bush and every tree and all the plants are at this point, even though it's a work in progress. There's still things that are happening. We need to be mindful and soft and gentle with ourselves as we recognize that we are a work in progress and that the Lord loves us with all of that happening. I'm so thankful for you to join in. If there is somebody that you can think of that would enjoy this message or could use this message, go ahead and hit the share button. Thanks so much. High five, friends.